Good morning and welcome everyone to Temple Buddhist Center's Sunday meditation service. My name is Victor and I'm honored to be of service this morning. We hope that our service this morning finds you all happy and healthy, but please know that if you are struggling in any way, we hope that our service and our Sangha and our message can be a source of refuge as we open our hearts to you and to your loved ones. Also, we want to acknowledge all of our friends and Sangha members joining us from all around the world. It was fun yesterday at our Temple Buddhist Center day-long retreat because we had someone from Canada joining us and a couple other places. So I got to kind of go, woo-hoo, we're international. Also, we want to be sure and acknowledge some very special celebrations today. Of course, a happy Father's Day to all of our dads, and a celebration of that divine masculine in all aspects of that. Also, a heartfelt acknowledgement of Juneteenth, and a celebration with all of our African American and Black brothers and sisters. And we celebrate this not just with a word or acknowledgement, but also from the bottom of our hearts as they celebrate, all these different folks celebrate these very special recognitions and honor those. So let's just take a moment to just feel that in our hearts for just a second. And I know that Robert is going to speak some more about that today as well. Let's begin our service this morning with a few conscious breaths. A conscious breath is where we seal the mouth, breathe deeply through the nose, hold that breath for a moment, and then release slowly so that the exhale is longer than the inhale. Let's begin. Holding for a moment. Feeling the fullness of the lungs and releasing slowly. And as you release, partnering with the body to become more gentle, easy, and light. Releasing any tension in the forehead, the eyebrows, the jaw, letting the shoulders drop, and softening the belly. And a second conscious breath together. Holding and releasing. And as you release, giving yourself permission to unplug from the going and the doing, getting up in the morning and caring for loved ones, getting yourself ready and driving and coming to temple. We just release the connection to that energy as we cultivate together the energy of being, that vast, boundless energy that is always a source, animates this precious human form. And a third conscious breath together. Holding for a moment and releasing. And as you release, inviting the awareness to bring into the awareness the present moment. There's just this. Relaxing, grounding, and centering ourselves. And here at Temple Buddhist Center, we like to begin our service with a little bit of chanting. Chanting is an integral part of every tradition. Chanting is not about being a singer. It's about having a voice. It is about a deeply devotional expression of what is most sacred within you and sharing that with the world. It's also an opportunity to unite with each other in certain kinds of energies. in vocalization, in that devotion to the practice and to all that is sacred. And so our chant today is Om Vajrapani Hum, Om Vajrapani Hum. You might recognize the seed sound Om, which is in the Sanskrit tradition, the sound of the universe, reminding each one of us that we're a beautiful note in a grand cosmic symphony forever playing. And Vajrapani celebrates and honors the energy of the enlightened mind. And so I'll invite Ricky to tone us in as we take a conscious breath together. Together. Om Vajrapani Hum. 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 Once more. Om Vajrapani Hum. Here at Temple Buddhist Center, we practice. Oops, hold on. I'll have a wake-up call tomorrow at some point, obviously. Here at Temple Buddhist Center, we practice Western Buddhism. And Western Buddhism is a blend of Eastern philosophy and Western psychology. And this new and exciting form of spirituality is dynamic. It's growing and changing with us, with our culture, with science in all of its forms as we learn more about not only ourselves, but this mind-body organism. It is active, and it focuses on core Buddhist insights as well as mindfulness, meditation, but also their practical applications in our daily lives. Our goal here is not to get everyone to agree on a specific lineage or philosophy or sect of Buddhism, but rather a shared experience of mindfulness, oneness, and love, whether we are chanting together, sharing from the heart, or spending time together in noble silence. We respect that you will participate at a level that is comfortable for you. We take refuge in the three jewels and acknowledge these core values as expressions of the awakened mind, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. We value awareness of our Buddha nature, as well as the Buddha nature of all beings, bringing a fresh new perspective to each and every encounter. The second jewel, the Dharma, the truth teachings that release us from fear and delusion and help us to realize the true nature of who we are. And the Sangha, the third jewel, our spiritual community, where we come together to work with each other on the practice and to help each other along every step of the path. And so let's take a moment now to silence any cell phones, electronic devices, if you brought a bagpipe with you or anything like that, as we prepare for a time in meditation and contemplation, a sacred time. We're going to begin with the prayer of refuge, which we shall recite together 3 times for the 3 jewels. And they're on the overlay for everyone at home, and they're here on the screen for us here. Together, in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. And so as we prepare now for a time in meditation, if you have an extensive practice, then we invite you to practice in a way that is fitting for you this morning. If, however, you are new to meditation, then we're going to begin with a dedication of intention. We will awaken the bell 3 times for the 3 jewels. Our teacher today, Mr. Robert Brumet, will then lead us in a brief guided meditation that's designed to assist you in moving into the stillness. Afterwards, there will be, of course, the Dharma talk, which is today's teaching, and then we will sound the return bell. And then there will be the Dharma talk, and then Robert will share the teaching with us. So with that, let's take a conscious breath together. Releasing. Body, speech, and mind. In perfect oneness, I send my heart along with the sound of the bell. May the hearers awaken from forgetfulness, transcend the path of anxiety and sorrow, and realize the true nature of who they are.
As we listen to the sound of the bell receding into the silence, just allow the body, the mind, to also sink into the silence, the place of complete quietude, non-action, pure being, just being. We're not trying to get anywhere or to do anything, just to be. So one thing that's helpful is to become aware of the breath, following the breath as you breathe in, as you breathe out, feeling the energy, the sensations in the body. I invite you to experience the breath as if it were a living being. Your breath is the gateway to the soul and beyond. Then after being with the breath for a few moments, we open the awareness to include any sensation in the body, any thought in the mind, any emotion in the heart. So we're witnessing, we're observing every sensation that arises. Notice pleasant, unpleasant. Noticing the quality of the experience. If it's tension or tingling or burning. With the emotions, if you're feeling emotions of any kind, let yourself feel that in the body. And not get lost in the story behind the emotion. Just feeling it fully, but feeling it directly in the body. And when thoughts arise, just see them as birds flying across the sky. They have a life of their own. You need do nothing but be present to watch. Being that which knows, being the observer, and not identifying with any of the content, not identifying with the body or the mind or the emotions. You are the observer. are the witness. You ground yourself in your own true being when you're able to witness every experience, your body and mind, without interfering, without pushing anything away, without holding on to anything. Be the center of the circle, not the circumference. Let all that you experience be the circumference of the circle, and you are in the middle, just noticing it rise and fall. The breath, feeling sensations in the body, emotions, thoughts. Just imagine that none of them were yours. You are that which is aware. You are that which is aware. continuing to be aware. And when you find that you become attached to a thought or a story, as soon as you notice that, just imagine you're jumping off of a train. You're letting it go by. And it's no longer taking you away. Coming home each moment to that deep sense of presence, that which knows. So in a moment we're going to ring the bell, and I invite you to gently open your eyes, and then to include seeing and hearing in the practice, continuing to be the observer, to be the one who is aware. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
I hope my scratchy, squeaky voice doesn't impair the message. And if you have trouble hearing me, just do one of these and we'll turn up the volume or I'll do something. So once again, happy Father's Day. Happy Juneteenth. And that Juneteenth is what I wanted to talk about today, because it's a time when the last slaves in the Confederate States were freed. The Emancipation Proclamation was about a year and a half earlier, but the war wasn't totally over in all areas of the country. So it took a year and a half for Gordon Granger, who was the head of the Union Army, and they moved in and took over and freed all the slaves. So it's about liberation. Liberation means becoming free, becoming liberated from what was once holding me in bondage. And so often in this practice, the term liberation is, in a sense, the ultimate intention of our practice. So that we're liberated from suffering, we're liberated from identifying with the ego, we're liberated from all parts of ourself that want to harm others. So liberation means becoming free, taking off the shackles and being free. So I'm going to talk about liberation in the dharmic sense, the spiritual, psycho-spiritual sense, not in the political or historic, but what liberation means and how we can attain it. And I'm going to look at three great spiritual teachers and just take a little potent snippet of their teachings, put them together, and I believe that this is a very powerful and potentially liberating way to approach the practice. So Khalil Gibran was a poet, as you may know. He wrote a number of books, particularly The Prophet, which is one that I highly recommend to everybody. And in The Prophet, he speaks or writes, if you will, but there's a character in the prophet that is a prophet and a teacher. So he's speaking to these people about freedom. They said, tell us about freedom. And he says, you shall be free indeed when your days are not without a care, nor your nights not without a want and a grief. See, that's what we typically call freedom, is when I am no longer hurting and I can do what I want and I feel free inside, but I don't want to be sad. I don't want to struggle. I don't want to hurt. So that's really not freedom, because these are parts of human life. Pain, confusion, illness, etc., etc. So if we look for freedom as trying to be free from the things that happen to the body quite naturally, then I don't think you're going to find the answer there. Because we can pretend that we're perfectly okay for a while. We can fool ourselves for a while, but not for long. And oftentimes other people are onto us anyway. You see? So it's not about trying to get away from pain or difficulties in life. But he says then, but rather when these things girdle your life, when these things girdle your life, and you rise above them naked and unbound. So there again, that's liberation in the sense of naked and unbound means I'm not attached to, I'm not resisting, I'm not hung up in any particular experience that I'm having. You know, whether I feel good or bad, whether I'm in health or illness, whatever is going on in my life, I may make changes in my life, but those are not going to get me freedom. And I can make changes to myself. That's not going to get me freedom. Freedom comes only when we're no longer attached to that which he calls the want and the grief. You know, the wanting what we don't have, grieving what was lost, you know, craving what we think we need, etc., etc. So it's not about trying to run away from anything. It's about being right in it and yet being what Gibran calls naked and unbound. And that's basically what we were doing in the meditation practice, in that sense of just being the witness. The witness is not wearing any clothes. You know, the personality is. It's got all sorts of stuff that it wants to show the world, and all sorts of stuff that it wants to protect itself from. Just be aware. Just be aware. Gibran, and how shall you rise beyond your days and nights unless you break the chains, which you at the dawn of your understanding have fastened around your noon hour. So I'm going to say that again. And how shall you rise beyond your days and your nights? So he's saying, this is how you can do what I'm talking about. Break the chains which you, at the dawn of your understanding, when you were a child, when you were younger, have fastened around your noon hour, which is the adulthood, the everyday life. So, being free is about breaking the bonds that tie us, but not in the world, not in our relationships, not even in physical health, but simply recognizing that this is what I believed. I may remember even when that belief came to be. You know, when my father or my mother told me I was dumb, or yeah, I'm not as good as your brother or sister, or anything like that. And we take that on. That's a chain. See, I've talked to a couple of people that have been in India, Southeast Asia, and they said that work elephants there, they don't have as many as they used to. They're trying to be more humane, but they still have work elephants that they train right from infancy. So the way they train an elephant is that they stake that elephant to a chain as soon as he can stand up, basically. And it doesn't take much of a chain to hold a baby elephant. So the baby elephant is there, but then when that baby elephant grows up and is much, much stronger and is capable of quite easily breaking the chain or pulling up the stake, the elephant won't do that. Because it's learned that whenever I'm shackled, I can't get away. It learns that that chain means you're here and you're going nowhere. Even though the elephant could quite readily be free, he doesn't know it. So that's a classic example of, you know, what Gibran's talking about. So let's talk some more about how to break the chains. Another teacher, George Ivanovich Gurdjieff, some of you may have encountered his teachings. He was born in Russia, which right now would be Georgia or that region, kind of north of Afghanistan. And Gurdjieff was a mystic, a spiritual teacher, and had some very powerful ideas. So here's basically the essential part of what Gurdjieff says. He says, man, woman, mankind, man is a machine. He's talking about the ego, man. All his deeds, actions, words, thoughts, feelings, convictions, and habits are the result of external influences. And so man is a machine when he identifies with his experiences, and then every external influence, he becomes a slave to that. Somebody tells him he's no good at something, or he's obnoxious, or you're not as pretty as somebody else. You see? The machine responds to that. and says, oh, I better start going to the spa, or I got to work hard to do better than somebody else, or whatever remedy the machine tries to make, it can't fix itself. So the way to be free from the machine is to understand it. Gurdjieff says, the first reason for man's inner slavery is his ignorance, and above all, ignorance of himself. Without self-knowledge, and without self-knowledge, understanding the working and functions of his machine, man cannot be free. He cannot govern himself, and he will always remain a slave and a plaything of the forces acting upon him. That's it. And so we see that in the news, we see that in sporting events, we see that everywhere, where, the stock market goes up, but, well, let's celebrate, and then it crashes, and, I'm going to jump out the window, and somebody loves us, and it's like, wow, this is wonderful. But then they decide they love somebody else more, then we're heartbroken. So man the machine, woman the machine, is totally influenced by external occurrences and a slave to those external occurrences. So the ego is like a computer that was programmed at the dawn of our understanding. And it was programmed to survive in our family. So we did what our parents wanted us to do. Or maybe we did just the opposite. But we had a strategy. We were building the machine. I got to be perfect. I got to be smart. I got to be pretty. I got to, whatever I got to do, you see. So the interesting part of this is one could say, well, the Buddhists say there's no self. So why do we bother trying to understand the machine, the self, if it's not real anyway? And we could say, okay, all I need to do is believe that there's no self, and I'm free. And that doesn't work. That does not work. It's like if you go to the doctor, and the doctor gives you some medication, you tell the doctor, I really believe this will make me healthy. And you affirm every day, this medicine is going to make me healthy. And after a week, you call the doctor and say, I'm just as bad as I was before, but I believed in the medicine. I did what you told me to do. I bought the medicine. See, we have to take it. So the taking it is we have to understand that pattern, that computer program that keeps us in bondage. So paradoxically, we have to know the self, K-N-O-W, in order to experience no self, N-O. So the way out is through understanding and non-identification. And when I say understanding, it's not an analytical understanding, but it's the understanding that comes when we're fully present to life. That's how we learn. So I want to close by talking about a third great person. This is a man named from Japan known as Dogen. Some of you may be familiar with him or his work. He developed Soto Zen back in the 13th century. And he was considered the greatest Japanese Zen master, Dogen. And so I want to close by reading a very brief but potent teaching from Dogen. He says, to meditate is to know the self, which is what we were talking about. Know the machine. Know what chains are keeping you in bondage. To meditate is to know the self. To know the self is to dissolve the self. To know the self is to dissolve the self. When we really understand how the machine works, then we're free. But again, understanding is not intellectual understanding. It's the understanding of the heart. And then he said, to dissolve the self is to be enlightened by all things. Everything in the world will serve to wake us up. Everything in our life will serve to wake us up, so that we're not at the mercy of the events in our life, but rather we use the events of our life to become free. You know, if a divorce, illness, lost business, so forth, you know, sure, that hurts. That's painful. Nobody wants to do it. But rather than playing victim, we can use that experience to become free, to awaken. And I believe that's very much parallels what Victor was saying last Sunday, I think it was, how he's used experiences in his life to awaken. So it's really powerful work, but the point is, the work is done by being, not by doing. So may you all know the self, dissolve the self, and be enlightened by all beings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robert. So let's just take a moment to embody the teachings. Drop down from the mind, wanting to figure everything out and analyze and record, remember, and just drop into how the teachings feel. And so it's not uncommon to, as we move into a heart practice or loving kindness practice, to perhaps shift the posture or make an adjustment in your sitting or take a conscious breath. And as we move into the metta practice, it is also not uncommon to provide some sort of an external or outward expression of the heart practice. Some people perhaps will form the Anjali Mudra or the heart focusing. Sometimes you can place a hand on your heart and just feel that. There's some folks who will place two, or if you're just simply sitting with your hands cupped in your lap, that's certainly acceptable as well, as we move into loving kindness or metta practice. So let's begin with a conscious breath together. And as you release that breath, I invite you now to bring to mind an image of you, a full body image of the form that has been given your name, that has accrued the many experiences over the years. And holding that image in your mind's eye, recite silently to yourself these words of metta practice. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be safe from inner and outer dangers. May I be well in body and mind. And may I be at ease and happy. Conscious breath. And as you release that sentiment into the universe, I invite you now to bring to mind the image of a friend of yours. And holding this image of your friend in your mind's eye, let us open our hearts as we send metta. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be safe from inner and outer dangers. May you be well in body and mind. And may you be at ease and happy. Conscious breath. And as you release that sentiment into the universe, I invite you now to bring to mind the image of a difficult person in your life, a challenging person. Could be a boss or a coworker, a neighbor, a classmate, or a political figure. And holding this image in your mind's eye, let us open our hearts as we send metta. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be safe from inner and outer dangers. May you be well in body and mind. And may you be at ease and happy. Conscious breath. And as you release that sentiment into the universe, I invite you now to bring to mind the image of the world, all the plants and the flowers and the trees, all the animals of the land, the sea, the sky, and all sentient beings, including ourselves. Holding this image in your mind's eye, let us open our hearts as we send metta to us all. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be safe from inner and outer dangers. May we be well in body and mind. And may we be at ease and happy. Conscious breath. And in the true spirit of dana, the Buddhist practice of generosity, temple services here are given freely. In the same way, if you choose to give, please give with a generous heart, which means not in return for anything that you have received today, but rather so that those who may be seeking refuge will find it here in this temple with these teachers, with these teachings. And so we also want to remind you that the dana boxes are at the back of the meditation hall, and we take a moment of gratitude, letting our hearts fill with gratitude for all of our wonderful volunteers who work tirelessly every day of the week to bring spiritual enrichment, nourishment, and opportunities to our Sangha, both near and far. Gratitude for our ambassadors, those folks who've committed themselves to regular monthly electronic giving. It's not about the amount. It's just that when we have a regular monthly giving, it helps us to set a budget here. If you'd like to become an ambassador, simply come by our website, templebuddhistcenter.com, and click on the Love Offering button. Gratitude for Rochelle. Thank you so much for your beautiful music. Gratitude for Mr. Robert Brumet. Thank you, Robert, for coming and sharing the Dharma and your practice with us. Even when you've got a scratchy throat, thank you for all your generosity and your mentorship. Yes? Oh, yes. Robert tested before he came to make sure he does not have COVID, and he is clear. So thank you for reminding us of that. And thank you especially to each and every one of you for sharing your heart, your presence, and your practice with all of us here at Temple Buddhist Center. We are the better for it. And so as we prepare now for our bodhicitta dedication, I will put this up on the screen here. We'll recite this together, and then we'll sound the closing bell. And then I have just a couple brief announcements. We have 2 brand new classes coming, and I'm excited to share those with you. But first, our bodhicitta dedication. Together, may the pure, brilliant sun of bodhicitta dawn in each and every heart and mind, dispelling the darkness of suffering and confusion unstoppably until all are illumined and awakened. And with the palms of our hands together in front of our hearts, as we go forth now from this place, may we enter each moment in innocence, guided by the wisdom of our hearts. And as we open our hands, open our eyes, shine our light into the world. Namaste. Oh, thank you, everyone, so much for being here today. I want to talk about a couple classes coming up. We've got our very own Beth Sarver is going to be featuring Interplay. Beth, is there anything you want to say about it? Or just, it's an incredible opportunity to help adults of all ages to learn to access that inner playfulness, that wild spirit that helps us to commune with what Robert was talking about, liberation and freedom. So through improv, through structured activities, games, all kinds of things, adults can reestablish that ability to be playful and to be joyful. Sometimes it works as a fabulous counterbalance to some of the difficulties and struggles in our lives. So how about that? Okay. Wonderful. And so it's going to be starting up Sundays from 1 to 3. So it's a great opportunity to come to the meditation service. You can still do the post-service discussion group, then get some coffee and some cookies, and then come and join Beth and other members of the Sangha as we take time to explore the spiritual aspect of play. And also coming up, our very own Crystal Webster is going to be, and also with Sharing Solace, is going to be featuring this class on the 28th from 6 to 9 called Feel Your Blankety Blank Feels. It's a class it's a beginner's guide to processing grief through mindfulness, resiliency, and emotional intelligence. So for all those members of the Sangha who've experienced a loss recently, or maybe it was such a devastating experience for you that you're still struggling with it, this could be an opportunity or a way to really work with processing it with other people who are sharing that pain with you. And so we have lots of other things coming up always. As always, the post-service discussion group is right after the service, just to the hall to the, just outside the hall to the left. And those of you joining us online, if you go to our Facebook page or the website, you can also join in with our post-service discussion group to talk about how we apply the teachings to our lives. And Buddha and the Bean every Tuesday. We've got Tai Chi Cha. Our class is really starting to grow. We had 5 people last week, so it's a fascinating way to learn how to bring meditation off the cushion and into movement. It is the joy of movement. And so, again, thank you, everybody, so much. And I wish you, as you go into your day, peace, blessings, and happy Juneteenth and Father's Day.